Welcome to another video. Today we're going to look at my Class 08 shunters. Who doesn't love a Class 08 shunter? First we have a BR green Class 08, and then a red DB Schenker, and then a Class 08 in BR blue, and finally Rail Freight Class 08. While we're looking at them, we might do some sound upgrades. The green 08 has an HM7000 with a power bank in, and I might see if we can change the loudspeaker. And the TTS we might swap out for another HM7000 with power bank to see if it can crawl across points. So let's have a look at them and see how we get on. The first one to look at is R2417 Hornby Class 08. I bought this about 20 years ago, I can't remember exactly when, and it's been on various layouts. Today it's running on this one with an HM7000 decoder and a power bank I managed to get into the cab. I was hoping to try and fit a new speaker. A subscriber, British Rail 60062, suggested I look at Roads and Rails, so I've got a 08 speaker from them, which should go behind the grille. But when we look at how I fitted the decoder, I think that's going to be quite difficult, but the current speaker in there is not very good. This Class 08 is fitted with an HM7000 decoder. Having programmed the decoder with the Hornby app, I like to use the decoder in DCC mode with engine driver. Here we are in engine driver. A bit hard to see, I can turn the sound on. And off we go. This is speed step 1 and it's insanely slow. It's a crawl that Sam Trains would be proud of. But we haven't got all day, so let's let it drive off. Let's watch this loco crawl across an Insu Frog point. Most of my points are very old from layouts in my life, and so that's why they're Insu Frog and not Electro Frog. And it's not really been possible to justify buying lots of new points when I have loads of old ones, which are perfectly good. As you can see with this decoder, the crawl is insane and it has no trouble crossing the frog. Get it all faster. I think it's cool, unbelievable. Let's get it faster now. Off we go. So I'll just show you where I fitted the decoder in this, and it's a bit of a compromise. If I take the body off, I've already removed the screws. You'll see that I had the decoder behind the grille with a speaker stuck on the front. I couldn't fit any of the enclosures here, and a friend of mine 3D printed a tiny enclosure for me. I stuck it there. In the other 08 shunters from Hornby, this motor is rotated by 90 degrees, so there's room on top for a decoder, but here I just couldn't persuade the decoder to stick on top because it's quite an old loco. You might have better ideas where to put it. The decoder seems to fit in in the front okay, but the problem is when I put the lid on there's a gap. When I put the lid on there's a tiny gap here, which I can live with, but it's not great. Ideally I'd change the speaker and find a better way to fit that decoder. My second Class 08 is this DB Red one, R3504 TTS, which I bought in 2018 for about £195 I think, and it runs really well. At slow speeds it does stall on the points, which is a bit unfair really, but it does. We switch it on. The slowest speed it will do would be on speed 2, but it still runs really nicely. I thought I might look at changing the decoder. It's quite extravagant since it already has a perfectly good sound decoder in, but it'd be fun to see how it's like with a different decoder. So I've removed the screws so we can now take the body off. And we see the decoder is stuck in the top and there's a speaker in the front. I did have a spare one of these speakers and tried to fit it in that previous 08, but I found between the back of the speaker and this spindle here, there really wasn't room to fit the decoder nicely. And if you look at this motor, it's actually rotated 90 degrees, so on top there's room to put something. So I'm going to be bold and remove this decoder and try and fit an HM7001 instead. So I've removed the old decoder. It was nicely sellotaped it in, but it came out easily enough. My original plan was to reuse this speaker, change the connector and connect it onto the decoder, but I've decided we'll try this Rhodes and Wales one instead. To fit the power bank I need to get the cab off, and just gently inserting my nail under there I was able to unclip it and it came off nice and easily. When I did that original BR shunter, getting the cab off I remember being very difficult, and I broke this kind of detail here, but luckily this time it's just come off with no trouble. So I've used some double-sided tape to stick the power bank there, and there's room for it to go through the gap there. I've connected it into the decoder, which I've wrapped some tape around. I changed the connector on the end of this speaker. Stripping these wires was very difficult. None of my wire strippers would strip them, so I nicked them with some nail scissors and managed to get the insulation off. And as usual I forgot to put the shrink insulation when I soldered this one, so I'll put some tape on that. So now I'm going to program it and check it's working, and then put back the body. I won't show program it because I did that in a recent video with a Class 91. Okay, after much faffing about, I finally managed to get the decoder programmed. Twice the sound file failed to load in, then I unlinked it and relinked the decoder again to the app. Third time lucky, it managed to program the sound file. Then, when I tried to program the long address in the Hornby app, for some reason CVs 17 and 18 just wouldn't program. So I faffed around with that a few times. But finally, the decoder's programmed and we're up and running. After switching to DCC, I then update the labels in the JMRI roster, and now we're all good. So I'll now put the body back on and we'll have a play with the new decoder. Right, let's try speed 1. There we go, now I've changed the decoder, it's crawling slower than it did before. To show the capacitor is working, I'll just turn off the track. So it's now off, but we can still hear it going. So that's working nicely. So I think I can regard upgrading that decoder and speaker a success. I was a little nervous about it because I do believe in if it's not broken, don't fix it. But in this case, I think that's a worthwhile upgrade to that 08. Okay, my next Class 08 is the Hornby R3898 TTS. This one, I think, was announced in 2020 with an RRP of £149, but it was delivered in 2022, and I think in the end I paid something like £173 for it, because Hornby put up their prices, which is starting to be a bit of a silly price. That this one is completely identical to the Red DB I just showed, £50 difference just 4 years later. But it runs really nicely and it has exactly the same TTS decoder in it. So that's its slowest speed on speed 2. Now we've looked at the blue Class 08 shunter and the red one. They're identical models, previously with the same decoder. Now the blue one still has its TTS decoder, and the red one we've changed to the HM7000 decoder. So we'll now compare their crawl speeds from previously. These are their minimum speeds. And now with the new decoder, the red one crawls much more slowly than it did before. On speed 1 the TTS doesn't crawl. On speed 2 it does, but you can see it's faster than the crawl of the red one. So the decoder makes a big difference to the performance of the loco. Okay, and my last Class 08 is this Bachmann 35906 SFX. This is a sound-fitted deluxe model, and I'll play with the deluxe features in a moment. And that's moving on speed 1. Another insane crawl. This one has lights on the front. It's a bit hard to see them in this light. If I turn them on and off, no, you can't see them. Let's put on the cab light. I'll turn the lights off and we'll give it a go darker. Okay, I've turned the room lights off a little bit. If I turn the light on, you can see that's the front light. There's reversing lights. There's also a cab light. Lights off, lights on. Cab light. So one feature of this deluxe model is the uncoupling mechanism. So I have it in the forward direction and I press the back coupling. Very nice. So previously I was coupled to a Bachmann wagon, but here's a Hornby wagon. Let's try again. So this time it doesn't work, because what I didn't realise, and when you think about it, probably it should be obvious, but it wasn't at the time, is you need a compatible coupling for this to work. So as you can see, the Bachmann wagon has compatible couplings. This Hornby wagon doesn't. So it's only partially useful, this feature. Lots of my stock is old stock or Hornby stock, so I probably don't have that many compatible couplings, so I have to ask whether it's really worth it. This is one of my really old Hornby wagons. Must be getting on for 40 years old. Let's see if this uncouples. Nearly. Almost, it's moving a bit. I think the answer is, with this feature, your mileage is going to vary, and really you need compatible couplings. So on that basis, for me it probably wasn't worth it, and in the future I wouldn't buy a deluxe model again. It's a fun gimmick, but I'm not sure how useful it really is. Here's another really old oil tanker. Well, that works because the old coupling is wider, and so this one hasn't actually hooked onto it. So it's fun, and it will work with some trucks but not others. That's my collection of 08 shunters. Hope you enjoyed looking at them. They're all gorgeous, and who doesn't love an 08 shunter? The other question you're probably asking is, when AccuScale bring one out, am I going to want one of those? Well, my layout's full. It's pretty hard to justify getting another one, so maybe not is the answer to that. But who knows, I might not be able to resist. we'll finish off with some running of some 08s.